thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to share my stories about President Reagan. I did have the opportunity of a lifetime to serve this man for 10 years, from 1989, right after he left office, until 1999, when he left the public eye. And what an incredible opportunity to see this man, not as a politician and not as the president, but just as a man, and as my boss and the former leader of the free world. I mean, what an amazing front row seat to history. And I would say that he's one of those few people that, regardless of the pedestal you had put him on, when you met him in person, he was surprisingly maybe even better than you had imagined. He was sort of this mythical creature, but when you met him in person, there was this twinkle in his eye, this way he would connect with you directly, and he made you feel like you were the most important person in the room, whether you were a head of state or you were just an everyday, ordinary, patriotic American who had great respect for him.
That's neat. And so when you're dealing with him as an individual, the more you got to know him, was he more approachable the more you worked with him? Or did he? A lot of famous people tend to have even close friends at arm's length. He sounds like he was very approachable and very personable in his ways of interacting with private people.
He absolutely was. And I got to see that for myself, of course, working with him closely. I got to watch his interaction with my own children, which I write about in my book, and how fun that was to see him sort of as a grandfather figure to my own kids, and to just watch how he wasn't bound by title. He didn't care whether you were president of a country or just the president of a company. He treated everybody with equal respect, and he was very warm and approachable. We know about his great sense of humor, and he really used that to put people at ease, to make them feel comfortable, to get them laughing and get them talking when they came in to visit him. Because you could imagine people were pretty nervous to meet him for the first time.
What always amazes me about Ronald Reagan, I mentioned that list, right? Hollywood movie star, cowboy, politician, president. It seemed to me that he was absolutely all of those things at the same time. You who got to know him really well, would you say he was more cowboy than he was president, or more actor than he was world figure? Where would you say the dominance in his personality was?
Well, he would have said that he was all of those, definitely. And people who belittled and mocked him for just being a cowboy actor playing the role of president, he would spin it right back on them and say, well, I don't know how you could be president without being an actor. So he brought everything that he was to everything that he did. And what a truly great American story. Only in America can a story like his be told. I mean, we think of him as president of the United States, but what most people don't realize is he grew up in a wide spot in the middle of central Illinois. He was very poor. He was born in the midst of the Great Depression. His father was an alcoholic. And if you look at the cards of life he had been given, we would have thought, oh, this poor kid will never amount to anything. But life has a wonderful way of working out. He was raised by a woman of faith and a great optimism who raised him to believe that anything was possible, and how grateful we are for his mother to raise him to believe that anything was possible. And he certainly proves that anything is.
It's lovely hearing stories about Reagan. There's so much longing for the days of Ronald Reagan. Let me ask before we move on to another area of question. Is there any one thing you would add to those epithets? We've got, again, cowboy, we've got president, we've got all those things. Is there, if you had to say one other thing that people don't know that Ronald Reagan may have been mythically, what would it be?
Well, I would say the thing that people underestimated about him was how disciplined and scholarly he was. And he sort of played that to his advantage. He didn't mind people thinking that he was the amiable dunce or whatever they wanted to deride him as. But behind the scenes, I saw him to be a man who was thoughtful. He read a lot. He was very disciplined. He wrote and edited so many of his own speeches. He was very involved in the crafting of messaging. And so I guess I was surprised by that when I first started working for him. But over the years, just watching the disciplined way in which he approached everything, he was always prepared. And so his preparation allowed him to appear like it was just effortless when he would show up to an event or speak at a program. But behind that was a lot of discipline and hard work.